Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's licensing subcommittee meeting to discuss Natura at 5 Elgin Crescent, a variation of license. We request that we wait a few more minutes. A third panel member wasn't feeling well, but she might still come to this one. If not, we are still quorate. But I request you to a little bit of patience. We'll give it a couple of minutes. Thanks very much. Okay, well, it looks like Councillor Blakeman will not be joining us, but we are, as I said, quorate, so we can get going. I'd also like to say at the outset, if this is likely to go on for beyond an hour and a half or so, we'll have a short break to do whatever. I'm Doris Schmetterling. I'm Vice Chair of the Licensing Committee, and I'll be chairing this subcommittee today. And I might as well say it now, I have no interest to declare. And I'd like to introduce my fellow panellist and councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Aryan Arati of Holland Wood. No interest to declare.
Thanks. Do you want to point the microphone at your face, as it were? Okay. So the procedure is, for those who've not done it before. Oh, sorry, I want to also ask the officers to introduce themselves, the ones who are here. On my left.
Good morning, I'm Lindsay Lemasurier. I'm the legal advisor to the committee today.
Hi, good morning, I'm Paul Phelan, the Licensing Projects Officer for RBKC.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then we have Governance Services. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Emma. I work for the Governance Department. Hi, Luke Curran, Governance Department.
Thanks very much.
Hello, I'm Gareth Ebenezer from Governance.
Gareth, the microphone is for you. So, admire the microphone and not our people here. Thank you very much. Where's my... Each party who's filed a representation will have up to 10 minutes to present the case and up to 5 minutes to ask questions. Applicants will put the case first, followed by any responsible authorities like police or environmental health and other persons. I don't think we have any responsible authorities here today. After each case, questions will be asked of the parties by the committee and then by other parties on the opposing side who are present and permitted to speak. There will be no summing up. And at the end, we will then adjourn to deliberate, but the public hearing will be closed and we will give our decision within 5 working days. So, would the licensing officer, Mr. Phelan, would you please introduce the application?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. Today's application has been submitted by Natura Limited for the variation of a premises licence at Natura 5 Elgin Crescent, London W11 2JA. The applicant initially sought to extend both alcohol sales on and off the premises, and the hours the premises are open to public to 2300 hours Monday to Sunday. Following conversations between the applicant and the council's noise and nuisance team, the applicant reduced the hours sought for on sales of alcohol to 22:30 Monday to Sunday. A summary of the amended timing sought has been included on page 2 of today's report. I can confirm that this application did not attract a formal representation from any of the relevant authorities. The licensing authority received 2 representations opposing this application, full copies of which are attached at Appendix C, pages 26 to 27, with a summary of these objections found on pages 3 and 4. Council records indicate that the premises received 2 noise complaints over the preceding 24-month period. A summary of the complaints has been attached at Appendix D, page 28. Council records also indicate that no temporary event notices have been submitted within the preceding 24 months. That concludes a summary of today's application. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like the applicant to put the case, and could I request you to please speak close to the microphone, smile at the microphone, don't worry about being polite and looking at people who ask you questions, admire the mic. Off you go, you have up to 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, and you have to turn the microphone on by touching request to speak. That's it.
Can you hear me?
Depends.
Okay,
Depends
cool.
what you do, how close you get to the mic, and we can hear you, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Natura Elgin is a small, high-end grocery store.
Sorry, could you introduce yourself first, please?
Of course. I'm Florence Clark. I'm the growth manager at Natura. Natura Elgin is a small, high-end grocery store that also offers tea, coffee, and a small counter menu for breakfast and light lunches. Our daily menu is radically seasonal and completely traceable, showcasing the same ingredients we source for top restaurant chefs. We can track every single ingredient back to a single known producer or grower, bringing next-level transparency to prepared food. We have always sold a small selection of natural wines and have recently launched our Saturday wine evenings to showcase these natural wines by the glass or bottle from industry favourites, ancestral wines and newcomer wines. Customers can also enjoy a simple menu of aged cheeses and cured meats alongside our homemade dips and seasonal vegetables. We don't take bookings, it's on a first-come, first-served basis. We are only asking to extend the licence by 2 hours to 10:30 p.m, with guests leaving by 11 p.m. The store only has a maximum capacity of 20 customers, so very small in comparison to many of the local pubs and restaurants. The full food menu will always be offered alongside the wines. We are a food business after all. Alessandra, who is our DPS, has a background in wine and has worked with many high-end establishments in London. She enjoys sharing her knowledge, and our service will always be focused on the appreciation of wine and on sharing knowledge with our guests. We will consider wine and alcoholic drinks as a complement to our food menu. Our range of drinks covers products of culinary interest coming from different agricultural regions and showcasing local traditions and culture, in a similar way as Natura approaches any other product that we sell in the store. We are good friends with many local businesses in the area. We've been part of this local community since opening in summer of 2019. As I mentioned, there are many other businesses nearby who already have a later night license than we do, and we have never received many complaints from any of our locals or neighbours. We feel really part of this community and feel we add value to the local area. We've also listed all the proposed steps in which we will take to promote the licensing objectives on this document, which we will take very seriously. And that's all.
Thank you very much. We can now ask you questions, that's okay. Councillor Areti? Don't.
Got a question, thanks. But from your regular services that you do your shop, do you do takeaways with any companies I associate with?
We work just with Deliveroo, but I would say on average we only do perhaps 1 or 2 a day, maximum,
1 or 2 a day, roughly about.
if that.
Right, just Deliveroo, that's it. Okay, one more question, Chair. I understand you applied for a pavement license. What hours did you apply for?
We've always had a pavement license for 2 tables and
Yeah, the
chairs.
tables and chairs, sorry, apologies. Yeah.
It will just be the same as the current hours, which we already.
The current hours, not the proposed new hours.
Which are the proposed hours? For the proposed new hours, yeah.
So you have applied for the proposed new hours. Right. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I wanted to actually ask you whether you have any vehicles that have got the word Natura on them,
Vehicles.
lorries.
In London, yes, we have our own sort of fleet of vans because we deliver to restaurants in London.
Okay, because it was spotted somewhere near Nottingham Gate, and I just wondered if it was, because your name is relatively, well, is rare or unusual or unique. So I was just wondering if that was part of your organisation.
Yes, so we're based, the headquarters are in Bermondsey, and so we deliver on our own vans to restaurants across London. We have 6 stores in London as well, but we also supply Ocado, Whole Foods and Waitrose.
Thanks. You said that the application for your tables and chairs, whether it's a payment license or whatever regime you use, but the tables and chairs, your application is for, it's a renewal of the existing, or you said new hours? Just clarify that, please.
So the payment license, I don't have the actual application for that here, but I believe it was just to, do you know what the hours were for that? I think currently we have it until 8:30 in the evening, I believe, because we serve a small breakfast and lunch menu, so customers can sit outside.
But what have you applied for? That's the thing. A renewal or the same or other hours?
I believe it's just the renewal of the current one, because we always had the same license for tables and chairs outside.
Are you sure about that? Okay.
I haven't got that actual document with me.
Have you got tables and chairs outside currently?
Yes.
Because that's quite important, because some of the problems that arise from noise, because that's principally what we're concerned about, arises of people sitting outside. Partly people coming outside of premises who drinking and becoming very merry and then talking. Okay. And the other one is people sitting outside and becoming merry, or even not merry, but just have loud voices like mine, for example, so they carry. And as you know, it's all very residential. That's why it's quite important as to what you might be doing outside.
No, I agree. I mean, I haven't got the documentation with me for the payment license. But currently, I believe we have it until 8:30, the same as the store opening hours.
Yeah, regardless of your application of pavement licenses, would you be happy to have a compromise on the pavement service outside?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, the majority, we currently host the wine evenings indoors anyway. I mean, it's been dark and wet and cold on a Saturday night, so we've only ever had residents enjoying wine.
Speak to the microphone. Please. Don't worry about looking at us. Look at the microphone.
Yeah, currently our customers sort of enjoy the wine within the premises. We have tables inside, up to 20 customers. But we'd be happy, yeah, for the payment license just to be a renewal, what it currently has been.
Perhaps we can do that when we come to the condition discussions. Just come to the discussion about potential conditions at the end.
Sure. One more question, yeah. I know this is nothing to do with your operations, but do you have double glazing of your windows?
I'm not entirely sure, I'm afraid.
Okay.
The one thing I want to ask, you've mentioned you have only 1 or 2 collections a day for Deliveroo. So how do your lorries work? They pick up their stuff from elsewhere? Because I think the one that was seen was delivering to Marks and Spencer, which is obviously a different operation to delivering to households. But I was just wondering how that works.
We don't supply M&S, so I'm not sure what.
Maybe it was going somewhere else.
That could be.
It's a service road. It was thought to go to M&S.
Okay, well, our
But maybe
lorries-
it wasn't, somebody was mistaken. But it was going to serve, there were several shops there, but they're not all food shops. Some of them are. There's Tesco there and so on. But I was just wondering, it looked like it was doing a commercial delivery. That's the point.
Well, our vans, they leave Bermondsey in the morning, and they'll do their restaurant deliveries, and they deliver to our stores between early in the morning before the store opens with fresh produce.
Before the store opens, that's another thing. But if it, okay. So the Deliveroo ones are from, let's say, residents, people just ordering, and then they're taking it from the shop. Yeah. If it's only 1 or 2 a day, I suppose it's not such a big deal. But if it rises, which it could do, and it could be later collections, have you thought of some sort of management policy for delivery drivers? Because you haven't got it as a condition in your premises license, but we do have conditions about that. And I was just wondering if you've considered that sort of thing should the volumes rise, which they could do.
Well, we currently only do Deliveroo throughout the day, sort of between 10 till 5, because that's when we actually serve our breakfast and lunches. So we can't see that being an issue.
Sorry?
So we can't see Deliveroo sales in the evening picking up, because we currently only offer Deliveroo throughout the day, when we offer our breakfast and lunches.
Okay, thanks for the moment.
But question, but nothing to do with the operations, eh? No, not now, Chairman.
I think Mr. Mazurier has 1 or 2 questions.
Thank you. So you said that you currently have Deliveroo between 10 and 5 when you've got your breakfast and lunch. Is that the time slot that you currently serve food in? And does the food stop at 5, or is it still available for people that come in and have a glass of wine up until 8:30?
So our breakfast and lunch menu is served throughout the day. It's a very simple menu of granola and yogurt for breakfast, teas and coffees, salads and soups for lunch, that kind of thing, very simple. And then currently we're just hosting our wine evenings on a Saturday between 5:30 and 8:30. And for that we just have, as I mentioned, a very simple menu of all of our fantastic produce, from charcuterie plates, cheese plates, dips, crudités, hummus, alongside wines by the glass or bottle.
And if you do get the extended 2 hours for your on sales and off sales, would you be increasing your food menu? Would it be changing at all to accommodate the extra hours, or would it remain the same?
It would remain exactly the same.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much. Would the objector, Ms. Bess, like to ask the applicant some questions? And if so, please, as I said, go close to the microphone, admire the mic, and don't be... I know everybody wants to be polite and look at the speakers, but just look at the mic, please. And press the request to speak button, and it'll go red like this one.
Yes, my main question really is whether or not, I mean, the problem with living locally is that all the different premises have different obligations. And so are we talking that there will be absolutely no Deliveroo collections after 5 o'clock? Or are we saying this could be reviewed and a new license will have to be applied for, which means another potential battle once the summer takes off and the licensing hours potentially have been extended until 10:30 at night? That's my concern.
Ms. Clark?
Sorry, is the exact question just about whether we'll offer Deliveroo into the evening or not, which we currently don't do?
I've had the Deliveroo drivers outside my window throughout the whole night, from 7 o'clock at night until 6:30 in the morning, permanently through the summer, last summer. So therefore, I am quite interested in finding out whether or not this is an application specifically to say there will be no deliveries or collections from any of the motorbike people after 5 o'clock, or whether or not that is likely to change at a later date once people get to know that you are open until 10:30 at night.
We currently have no plans to extend our Deliveroo offering into the evenings because at the moment Deliveroo is for ordering, food you're going to eat then and there, so our soups or salads or pasta dishes, which we serve for breakfast or lunch. But for the evening, for our wine evenings, it's just a small selection of cheese plates, charcuterie plates, dips and hummus, so we wouldn't list those on Deliveroo. So you wouldn't extend the hours of Deliveroo into the evening.
Yeah, I think the point is that it doesn't matter what it is it after 5 o'clock in the afternoon? That's the question. It doesn't matter whether it's a piece of cheese or a big hamper.
No, I mean, we have no plans to open up Deliveroo in the evening. This was just, we have no plans to offer our menu on Deliveroo in the evenings.
Or would you see in the future that your plans might change? That's predominantly the question is about.
I mean, it's hard to tell at the moment because we've only recently launched the wine evenings. But again, I can't see that we would want to. I see Deliveroo more of a platform for selling kind of ready prepared meals as opposed to just plates of charcuterie and cheese. So we have no current plans to extend Deliveroo into the evening. And even now we only sell or do, I don't know, between 10 and 20 orders for the whole week, I'd say. It's not very popular.
What sort of revenue share would be your deliveries from your whole?
Revenue share and... Sorry, I don't understand what you mean.
Yeah, sorry, it's okay. I think it's irrelevant anyway.
Thanks. We may come back to that, but would Ms. Bess like to comment on that? Any further views on the response you've had so far?
I think my main observation is just trying to police this. This is one premises which is looking to extend its license for 20 people. Across the road from Natura, there is a restaurant that has been, the council have already licensed to have 94 guests there until midnight, and therefore, again, one, to police it, to try and explain to the local authorities, the police and everybody else, when there is a nuisance, what exactly are the licensing terms for each and individual premises. Therefore, on that premise, my gut feeling is to object on the basis that all these premises say, it's fine, when we get up and running, ultimately the conditions are flexible. And that is one of the big issues that I have with this process. We haven't even talked about refuse collection. ultimately, if they are open until 10:30 at night, does that mean that that is happening also into the early hours? I have a restaurant across the road from me. Under the terms of their licensing promises, there would be no refuse collections between midnight and 7 o'clock in the morning. That is absolutely breached every single day of the year. When it comes to the pub across the road from Natura, they take deliveries from their brewery between 4:30 and 5:30 in the morning. This is why it's a much bigger issue than just one premises saying, well, at the moment we're just doing informal glass of wine and plates of charcuterie and cheese. It's not. It's a much more complex issue, which I would like the council to police and say, in black and white, this is what has been agreed, and this is what you have to stick to, and it has to go up onto the window of the premises. So if there is a breach, there is a way of actually resolving the problems.
Thanks, Ms. Bess. First of all, I'd like to say that the current license for the premises does say that there will be no refuse collections or deliveries of any sort between 2300 and 0700. So this is also the opportunity, because I think this is also being live streamed, this is an appeal and a call to residents who have a problem to report it to the council. You see, Ms. Bess, you've just said, in the case of other premises, of apparent breaches of the license, please report it when it happens. There's a thing called the report a problem page. Stick it on there, because there'll be no complaints about the present premise Natura. And this is the thing. People must complain to us and not tell us at objection time. You can even email, but use the report a problem page. Google RBKC report a problem. There are 14 categories of issues that you can report on, and one of them is noise and nuisance. There's also graffiti and failed street lights and fly tipping and so on. But it's the noise issue, which is a big one in all licensing cases. Please, everybody who's watching, and read the minutes, and it's going to be minuted, report the problem when it happens. Thank you very much. You want to reply to that?
Yes, I'd just like to. The noise team go off duty at 3 o'clock in the morning. So therefore, any time after that, they can't deal with it. Any noise nuisance relating to anything that is outside a premises, to do with staff partying, waiting staff or whatever, they cannot, unless I individually go down and identify which premises they are working for, the noise team cannot do anything about it. When it comes to early morning deliveries, I can't put the noise team on standby between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning to actually witness some of these things. I have got endless photographs that I have sent through to the licensing department. I have dealt with the police. I have dealt with my councillors. I have promised you, for the last 3 years, I have been fighting a battle on every front, trying every single thing. The local police station in Ladbroke Grove, I've had endless problems with it. But at the end of the day, unless it can be absolutely witnessed, and apparently my photographs and my videos are not sufficient to actually do anything about it. So it is not just a question of complaining. And the noise department, they have me on standby. I have it on ringback, all the time, because it has just got to the point where it is out of hand. I mean, even the local flower seller on the corner of the street of Elgin Crescent plays his music really loud on a Friday and on a Saturday. So again, what do? You have to phone the noise department. I've been down and talked to him, said, please, just turn it down. I like opera. I don't like your type of music. But that is irrelevant.
I understand it can be difficult, and obviously this is just a call to object or to report, but just to answer your specific points that you've raised, we do need evidence that could, as it were, stand up in court. So it is important to trace it to premises. So a video recording, which I think you may have done already and sent in, is important. I'm not saying the noise team will always respond immediately, but it's the reports. We can call in licenses for review. We can revoke licenses if we have the evidence, and we've done that. And I've myself sat on a panel, I think it was a third review, and I sat on the last two, because it was obvious that the DPS could not control the premises. And dozens and dozens of people supported the premises for various reasons. But the fact was that a couple of residents nearby were suffering, and we had the video evidence of door slamming at 3 a.m. or whatever it was, because there were patrons in there, and so on. So you won't necessarily get an instant response, and we do need evidence to trace it to a particular premises, because in our reports, when somebody applies for a variation or for a new license, I mean, some of it is kind of irrelevant because it says no complaints the last 24 months, but of course, if it's a new premises where somebody else was in there, it doesn't matter what there was because it's new management or new premises. But if it's a variation like this one, we take it into account, and there were no complaints. Well, there were 2 complaints, but both of them weren't really, I mean, they're important, of course they are, but they weren't criticizing the premises for continuous noise, okay, or frequent noise disturbances. And this is the issue. That's why you may feel aggrieved, and I understand it, believe me, I really do. But some of it is said to be not sufficient to take action. And by action, I don't mean that they always come out to look, but that it's recorded as being assignable to a particular premises and they've caused a nuisance. Do you see, this is the issue. But we do want the reports, and it's important that we get the reports in, so have a diary of what's going on. It's all kept. Nothing is lost. I mean, I hope it assuages your worries a little bit, but that's really what the reality is. And now it's your chance to make the presentation, Ms. Bess.
Thank you. My name is Roxanne Bess, and I have lived on Kensington Park Road for the best part of about 30 years, during which time I have seen this part of the borough degenerate into what is now becoming, in my opinion, like a slum, with the amount of rubbish that is all over the place. Parking is becoming an issue because of the shacks that have been erected supposedly for temporary licenses. There's a discrepancy as to whether or not under the new legislations party going and dining can take place after 10 o'clock, whereas under the original licenses all dining has to be behind closed doors, ideally double glazed windows. So there is, and I appreciate it's a difficult time, so I don't make a big song and dance about it, but I'm just saying that the quality of life as a resident in this neighbourhood has become appalling. As I've mentioned, across the road from Natura, there is a restaurant premises that used to be a kitchen and pantry, which was merely a coffee bar, which got its extended licenses, and able to accommodate 94 people inside, with also external dining. There is the pub that has a lot of smokers, which is also has outdoor dining, and on a Saturday that area becomes impossible to even walk along the pavement because of all the people that are loitering outside. Fine, whatever, one has to just walk in the middle of the road. The refuse issue is ridiculously complicated because most of the premises don't have anywhere to store rubbish, and they rely on, from my understanding, 3 different refuse collecting operations, which means that it does go on through the night. And the other thing is there's a shop beneath me that has now been unoccupied for the last 6 weeks. In the past, it was one of the hot premises, and I can only put it down to the fact that there's nowhere to park your car for local people to come and visit. You have to scramble around refuse, which has stained the pavements, and ultimately it's the staff who also make a lot of noise after hours. If the diners you can go down and ask them to be quiet. But the staff, when they're cleaning up or there's been a football match or whatever, it goes on until 2 o'clock in the morning, and that I think is unacceptable. I also would like to just confirm that Natura does deliver to a neighbouring premises called Osteria Basilico, and their van is definitely delivering before 7 o'clock in the morning. So all of these things make it very difficult from a member of the public to actually know what is licensed in terms of noise, when there is a cut-off, why they're all different, etc., etc., etc. I mean, even Portobello now is looks better maintained and clean than my bit of Kensington Park Road, Elgin Crescent and Blenheim Crescent, where there are anything up to 30 to 35 motorbikes on an afternoon waiting for Deliveroo collections, and they park in the middle of residence bays. I mean, the whole thing is just out of hand, quite frankly. Apologies for my whinging.
Thank you very much. Well, of course, we are speaking of specific premises. If you're saying that there's an Natura vehicle that's delivered nearby, if it hasn't come from these premises, then that's possibly a breach, because you mentioned before 7, possibly a breach of the license of the premises receiving the delivery. So that could be checked. I mean, do we have a report on those premises which said delivery observed before 7 a.m.? I mean, I don't have to answer it now, but I don't know if you submitted that report, but if you did, we'd have to look those premises up, not Natura.
I've been in touch with Emma Taylor, who basically says that it is not, the older premises licenses don't cover that, which is why I'm saying any new application, because Natura is here for maybe a year, 2 years,
well, they said
hopefully
2019.
longer. But ultimately, we don't know what happens next, and it could be an extension of the nightclub, which is sort of 3 doors down from Natura. And because there's already a precedent of having late night opening, it continues and it extends. And that's why sometimes it's just easier to go for an outright objection.
Right, but as I said, we have to consider the case before us. And I know there's a context, but we have to be careful to what extent the context is relevant, if you see what I mean. So, Councillor Retty, do you have any questions of the objector, Ms. Bess?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Beth. Just checking, what do you think would be the reasonable hours for this premises by your experience within the area?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question?
No, I'm just checking, what would you think would be the reasonable hours of opening of Natura?
I would say until 10:30 is fine, as long as it is 10:30 and that they stick to their the regulations in terms of taking delivery of stuff in the early hours, if I remember rightly, was the term that was used. But ultimately, this is something which needs to be looked at and policed. So until 10:30, then that's fine, fair enough. But the early morning deliveries would have to be implemented, and also that the refuse collection similarly has to be within a certain time frame.
Thank you.
Well, the request is for sale of alcohol till 22:30 on the premises, but till 2300 off the premises when the store shuts. So that's more or less what you've said, right? The question would be adherence to those hours. And it's the delivery hours and rubbish collection, it must be adhered to for the hours stated. That's the whole point of conditions. And by the way, addressing it to the DPS and to the applicant, I would say, I did mention I was involved in a license revocation, and it was the grounds were very simple. I'm not suggesting in any way that you are like this, but I just want to mention it. It was very simple. The DPS, and I think he was the owner or the lease owner of the premises, he clearly didn't see the conditions as being needed to adhere to in detail. He didn't see it was actually a legal requirement to stick to those, and that's why we revoked the license, having given them a chance. So it is important that this is adhered to.
May I
want to say
also,
something?
yes, I just wanted to add that they haven't made an application for carnival time, which is another contentious issue when it comes to extending licensing hours for special occasions. Most of the Italian restaurants are open until 1 o'clock in the morning for New Year and during Carnival. So this is another element that it would be useful to have clarification now that we're all here and discussing this particular application.
Thank you, Ms. Best. That's in fact entirely a separate issue. Should they wish to change their hours, they'll apply for what is known as a temporary event notice, or TEN for short, and is not the subject of this. That really is something dealt with, and the legal regime covering a TEN slightly different to this regular license of variation or grant. Now, what I want to ask you is, yes, a question to the applicant is, who collects the rubbish? Is it the council contractor, or a private one?
I believe it's First Mile who collect our waste.
Sorry, what's it called?
First Mile.
First Mile. Sounds like a private. Sounds like a private contractor.
But between the hours specified.
You did mention you get before the premises open. As either rubbish collection or delivery, you said. Didn't you?
That's delivery. So as I said, yeah, the Natura, our own vans, will leave Bermondsey in the morning with the fresh produce, drive to Portobello, and then deliver the fresh produce for that day.
They leave what early? They leave Bermondsey early, or wherever the base is?
Yeah, so all our deliveries the vans leave Natura, Bermondsey in the morning, and they deliver to restaurants across London. They'll deliver
Okay.
to our 6 stores. So I'll drive to the store, unload, the team will unpack it, and then set up for the day.
Okay, well, the key is that the vehicle has to comply with whatever the local license is, because your depot in Bermondsey will have licensing conditions attached of some sort, I expect. Maybe not because it's not selling alcohol, but they have conditions, some sort of thing there. And so long as the delivery takes place at each establishment, it has to meet the local licensing conditions, which could be different. I mean, we are Kensington and Chelsea. You know, other boroughs will have different reference hours or standard hours or whatever, you know. But so long as you meet that, so nobody turns up before 7 o'clock in this borough or in whatever premises say, that's all right.
No, they never do. I mean, Ali's saying here they never
Well.
arrive before 7. It's always between the correct hours,
Okay.
never earlier.
Does the applicant have any questions of the objector?
No questions. I think we're empathetic to the objections, but it sounds as if all the objections are to do with separate businesses, nothing to do with Natura. And as you said, we're only asking to extend the license till 10:30, and we've had no objection so far about collections or deliveries outside the correct hours.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think we've completed this section. Councillor Ritty, any other questions? No? And so we will now look at potential conditions for this. And our legal advisor will just go through them and ask for comments.
Thank you, Chair. Has everybody seen a copy of the draft suggested conditions that were circulated yesterday? Applicant, have you got a copy as well? Okay, so I'm just going to go through 18 to 22 because obviously you've got an existing licence. Can I have your comments on proposed condition 18, which is residents meeting? Can I ask the applicant what their views are on this condition being added to the licence?
Is this just to host 2 meetings with the DPS a year for local residents?
Yes, with the local residents, ward councillors and local residents associations.
Yes, we'd be very happy to do that.
Thank you.
Would that take place on the premises?
Yes, correct, yes.
That's fine.
If the objector wishes to chime in at any point as well, please do.
Could
Number nine,
I just say that we are trying to do this wherever we can, is to have a condition about meeting residents unless the residents have agreed that a meeting is not necessary. So it's not special, but we're trying to do
that's
that.
Fine. That's fine for us. Ali's very happy to do that.
Okay, thanks. Obviously, they shouldn't be within a week of each other, but they should be separated, because you could comply if you just have 2 within a week, but they have to be separated by, say, 5 months or something like that.
we can word that. That's
We
fine.
can, yeah,
That's
that can be
fine,
worked
yeah.
out. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to suggested condition 19. That's basically displaying a telephone number so anyone can phone up if there's an issue. Are you okay with that?
Again, yeah, absolutely fine. Would that just be within the window of the...
Yes, it's required to be on the window, yes.
That's fine.
Thank you. Right, 20. I mean, obviously, I'm aware that you're applying for a separate highways licence, which allows you to put tables and chairs on the highway. But obviously, the red line of your premises plan includes the forecourt area outside. So that would form part of your on-sales, which currently last until 8:30, but you're seeking until 10:30 now. So I just wanted your view on condition 20, which basically says, and I've put the number in brackets for it's up for discussion. So after 8:30 p.m., which is when your on-sales currently end, alcohol shall only be sold for consumption on the premises, which would obviously include the forecourt, with food seated at tables and served by waiter waitress service. So can I ask your views on that? So basically from 8:30 till 10:30, which is for your on-sales, any alcohol has to be sold to people who are seated at tables by waiter waitress and with food, but it doesn't have to be a substantial meal, just nibbles. Can I just ask, do you have waiter waitress service? What's your view on that?
Currently customers have to order at the front till, but they have to be seated. We don't serve any alcohol to any customers standing. So they'd always be seated in the current tables.
And are they served the food by waiter waitress, or do they collect it themselves?
No, we serve it to them.
All right, so it's not an issue having waiter waitress service. Okay,
No.
so that's fine. Okay, so at the moment, I think on your existing licence, any alcohol sales have to be sold to seated people, I believe. But this obviously requires anything after 8:30 alcohol to be sold with nibbles as well, not just pure alcohol.
Currently every single person I'd say so far orders food with their wine. I don't think of any customer so far who's just ordered a glass of wine, so...
Could you speak into your mic, please?
Sorry. I was saying so far we haven't had any customers who've just drunk purely alcohol. Everyone's ordering food and sitting down to enjoy food and drink together.
Okay, so you're happy for that condition. So after 8:30 p.m, there has to be seated by waiter waitress service with nibbles, food. So it's not a meal, but are you happy with that, or would you I just want to make it clear, because obviously you have to abide by any conditions that if the council is
So just to
reminded.
clarify, so someone has to, if they order a glass of wine, they have to order anything small
Yeah.
alongside it.
Yeah.
So we would have to police that. Currently, as I was saying, everyone who does order wine is enjoying food as well. We haven't had any cases of anyone not doing that. I guess that would be okay, yes.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously it's for the councillors to decide, but obviously I wanted to make you aware of the implications of agreeing to anything.
Preferably not wouldn't necessarily want to force someone to order food alongside, but it seems that the majority of customers already are.
Okay,
So-
fine, yeah. Brilliant. 2030, that's when we're currently on.
Which condition are you talking
20. Right, we're now going on to 21. This is talking about the external forecourt area, which you're hoping to get a tables and chairs licence renewal for, and forms part of your on-sales because it was within the red line. So obviously this is directed at noise issues, and so I just wanted to know your view on this. So the external forecourt area shall be kept clear of all customers by 8:30 p.m. and shall not be used for the consumption of alcohol between 8:30 p.m. and 7 a.m., which is when you open the next day. And all tables and chairs are to be removed or rendered unusable as per any highways licence. So I suppose the question is, what do you envisage the outside area being used for? And would it be a problem agreeing to clearing people from that area at 8:30 p.m?
Well, ideally we'd like this to match the 10:30 p.m. licence, so if you wanted to enjoy some food and a glass of wine outside, you could. We only have 2 tables and you can only sit 4 people maximum outside.
So 2
So-
tables, and so 4 people outside.
Only 4 people. So
I've got a feeling that the highways licences, I think from memory, you generally have to remove the chairs by 10 p.m. I know you've requested 10:30, but would 10 p.m., which would tie in with the removal of the tables and chairs?
That would be fine, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're fixed. There's not sort of, it's like a bench as opposed to chairs, but we can remove them.
Okay.
That would be fine.
It has to be rendered unusable, I think that's the
Turn
key.
them upside down. It
Okay.
depends what the pavement license says, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I have to say, there are situations where they're rendered unusable, but it's before the premises close inside, so then the obligation is to remove furniture after the premises close, because it can be small. It's not reasonable for people to take in tables and chairs when there's people inside, obviously. But the key thing is it's rendered unusable.
Yep, that's fine. 10 p.m. will be fine for that. And as we said, it's only 2 tables and 4 seats, so
Can I
It's
ask
only
the
very
objector
small.
what their view is on that?
I think my only concern is that, particularly in that part of the street, are glasses that are left often on the pavement. And I've had 2 punctures like that in the past, with glasses just being left and then knocked into the gutter, and subsequent problems as a result of that. And the pub has a waiter that specifically is on duty to pick up empties, and on the whole, on Saturdays when they're very busy, they only serve alcohol in plastic beakers rather than glass, exactly for that reason. So I would.
Do they do that currently? Do you serve plastic outside?
no, we don't serve
Okay,
plastic.
because there isn't a condition for that on there. Would you be willing for a further condition to be added, just saying you've got to sweep the area on a regular basis to obviously remove any within the vicinity of your premises? Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we do that anyway to keep the outdoor space
Yeah,
tidy.
in particular after it closes, so that you avoid issues that Ms. Bess has raised, which is very valid, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the store's cleaned every evening when we break down, so
I think that will also be on the pavement licence as well, but this is a dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Okay, so 22. How are you with this proposed condition? So save for the sale of alcohol on the premises, and that includes the forecourt. All off-sales of alcohol shall be in sealed containers only and not consumed on the premises. Notwithstanding this condition, customers can take away part consumed and reseal bottles of wine which they've consumed whilst on the premises. Are you okay with that?
yeah, again, that's fine.
Okay. And Councillor Schmetterling was going to, yeah. Would you be amenable to us having a standard type condition requiring you to have a courier delivery policy with like Deliveroo's, just basically formulating a policy and supplying it to the licensing authority, just explaining how you're going to manage your courier deliveries?
So what does that involve?
Well, it's just basically saying how you're going to, will the Deliveroo people be coming to the entrance of the store where you'll ask them to park? You'll have a policy managing, don't park outside on double yellow lines, don't leave your engines idling. I mean, Paul, would you be able to clarify a bit more what goes into those kind of policies?
Certainly. So it's essentially a sort of risk mitigation if you were to take on deliveries, sort of steps that you would take to try and ensure that the licensing objectives weren't adversely affected by the operation of the delivery directly.
What things like switching on the engine while, taking the deliveries,
I
not
mean,
making
that-
too much noise.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
I haven't got any further conditions.
I just want to
but,
comment
yeah.
on courier policies. It obviously depends on the kind of premises, what you have to state. We have, there are a lot of these, not a lot, there's some, these dark delivery depots. In a sense, yeah, some of these 20-minute delivery services have got basically what are called dark depots in the borough. And I think one I can think of operates its own fleet of drivers. So, it was agreed that they'd only use electric bikes, for example, so to keep the noise down. Obviously, in your case, you're going to use Deliveroo, which you can't impose anything on Deliveroo, but that's why, you know, you can adjust what is in the policy. In your case, it's managing the people. You've heard, you know, there's motorbike racket, which I know there is. I mean, as the statement of licensing policy says, in several paragraphs, this is largely a residential area. The whole borough is residential. Even busy Notting Hill Gate and busy Kensington High Street and busy King's Road are all residential. And you can see it after 2300, 2400. So that's the purpose of doing this. I mean, I don't know if you live in... Do you live in the area? Do you live in Kensington somewhere?
I used to live around the corner, so I do appreciate.
Right. So just imagine,
Delivery
you put
driving.
yourself in the shoes of the residents who are not in your store, in your premises, at, you know, in the evening. So, thanks. Right. Well, I think we're done. Anybody else want to make any comment? Any question? Licensing, governance. Would governance team have got any comments? All right. Well, in that case, we're going to go into private session to make a decision. We will not come back and give you the decision on the spot, so you can all go home, and we will give the decision within 5 working days. A summary decision and a full decision, which is essentially the summary decision plus the minutes of the meeting, will be issued fairly soon after that. But the license, when it's issued in summary form, will be valid immediately. Thank you very much, and the meeting is closed at just before 10:58 on my wonderful electronic clock. Thank you very much. The live stream will end.